Today on the show, we have an awesome guest. This guy has come guest train in our highest level program on the topic of leveraging social media for your business. Man, this is a free resource. If you're not using it for your business, you might be missing out. If you've been hesitant to use it, this episode's for you. We're going to really break it down and create simplicity so you have a structure you can follow to start growing. And it's been so cool. We've seen actually some of our students using this guest strategy and totally crushing it with their launches. It's so fun to see. So welcome Coach Fryer to the show.
The crowd goes wild. What's up, guys? Rainmaker fam, good to be here. Thanks so much for the invite. Stephen and Chelsea, I'm honored to be here with you guys.
Yeah, man. So excited to have you. I feel like this is one of those topics. When we started selling on Amazon, it was kind of nice to kind of hide behind the scenes and be the faceless brand. But I feel like in 2024, people want to buy from people, and it's not a requirement. You can still sell on Amazon, be faceless. But I feel like something that makes brands even more valuable is having a person behind them, having a brand. And I feel like when I think of the brands I love the most, they're active on social, they're creating the content, and you've really mastered this and helped others master this to leverage their business. So take us on your Instagram journey a little bit. Like, were you always the Instagram master, or where did this whole thing start?
That'd be really cool to say if I was always the Instagram master. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. I always say that every master was once a beginner, right? I think we would all agree with that statement in our own rights and our own levels of expertise. But I've always had a love for Instagram. I tried it several years ago. Back in the old days when you would buy followers and all the things you're not supposed to do. So if you're listening in today, please do not do any of those weird things, buying followers, follow trains, all that stuff. It's just going to bring you the wrong type of folks. But it wasn't until about 18, maybe 20 months ago to where I really started to dive back into Instagram. I kind of put it on the shelf for a year or two. And I thought, you know what? I love Facebook. I've built the majority of my business on Facebook. But I just was drawn to Instagram. And as you guys have done extremely well on Instagram, you probably kind of think the same way I do. Is it's a different platform, different type of people on there. A lot more aesthetically stuff, right? You've got the aesthetic look, and now you have more so reels and stuff like that, short form video. But I just thought it was a huge opportunity, and I think it's really cool. And what you guys are doing on Amazon to teach your folks and introduce them to something like Instagram to bring more traffic, eyeballs, visibility to the products they're promoting. So I see huge advantages to using Instagram.
Yeah, I would say we came from this Instagram background. I actually took a year off Instagram because I got so sick of it. Because when we started on Instagram, it was early, I don't know when it was, probably 2013, 14, started getting on Instagram. And we were in an industry where it was very polished. And I feel like Instagram was kind of that way back then too. It was like, show your ideal life, right? It was like, curate the posts. We'd be planning them in advance, make sure they're aesthetically pleasing. And now I feel like we've really moved to this like authenticity, like really authenticity is king season, which is awesome for people like who are, I think, a little hesitant to step into being online, right? It's like the barrier, like, yes, we want to create good content, but we just had someone on our show the other day. He's gained over, like, I think a collective 3 million followers across his social media platforms. And he just started with like a broken cell phone camera, just like posting real life stuff that was happening in his life in regards to cooking, and just sharing a passion that he had. And now he's grown this huge, massive audience. So Brian, what would you say to someone who might be, I don't know if I should listen to this episode. I don't want another thing to do. This sounds really hard. I don't want to be on social media. What would you say to that person who's hesitant to take a step into the social media world?
Yeah. Put those reservations to the side, jump in with all feet, all hands, toes, like jump in full steam ahead. And one of the things that we'll probably dig into today, again, I'm honored and grateful to be here with you guys, is everything that I do, everything that I know you guys do, we try to keep things simple, right? Because if it's not simple, you won't do it, I won't do it. And to teach the folks that we all are fortunate enough to teach, they won't do it, right? If it's, building their business on Amazon, if the steps that you guys are giving them are not simple, it's going to cause confusion and overwhelm and all this stuff. And so you try to keep things simple. Same thing in my area of expertise in social media. I know that if someone comes to me and say, hey, I've got this product, this service, this business, this brand, I want to grow on Instagram, for example. If I don't lay it out, step 1, step 2, step 3, very simply, most likely they're not going to do it. And so without getting into too much strategy just yet, I know you guys are going to want to dive into some of that here in a few minutes. I get asked all the time, Coach Fryer, what apps do you use to
Mhm.
make all these fancy reels? What do you use for this? What do you use for that? And all this extra stuff. I'm like, I don't use any of it,
Mhm.
because if it's going to add another layer of confusion for not only myself, but a potential client or something like that, it's going to make things more
Mhm.
difficult. So again, for someone who's sitting there thinking, "Oh, I can't add another thing or what have you," I will say this: I've been fortunate enough to help a couple folks in your guys' community so far, as you guys are aware of, and I won't say names for sake of privacy, but I actually got a couple of messages the other day saying that a very nice percentage of their traffic and sales are now coming from organic Instagram strategies, in addition to all the incredible things you guys are teaching them. So it's like, for me, they're able to almost double dip
Um,
doing the same amount of work. And so for me, it's a perfect scenario for the folks, creating products on Amazon.
I love that you're about like simplicity, Brian, because I even just the other day, like, and we've had this like up and down, like Steven said, with our Instagram now really fully leaning in, but also just like you, we have a family. We want to protect our time and not get so consumed by things. And I was actually scrolling, I'll admit, and I was watching somebody who was trying, I don't know, doing some like real trend, like, hey, try this. And like the outcome of what she produced was absolutely beautiful. It was like this beautiful like picture. I can't really like, that you would use on like a story showing like very like artistic things, but it was so complex to get there. And it was like, here you go in your stories and you click this. And she was showing all these features that I literally had no idea about. And although like I'm sure some people love doing that, I love that you don't have to do that and you can show up unpolished. And I know that's what you're really about. So I would love to like get into some of your framework or things that you teach to show our listeners how simple this is, how powerful. And I love that even, yeah, some of our students like are able to double dip in both because why not?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I just go back to what Steven was talking about earlier. Keeping things super super simple. If it's complex, most people, whether they're building a business or product through Amazon or just social media in general, I think is critical. So yeah, I'm game. Where you guys want to start as far as frameworks, social media strategies? Love to share with your guys'
I mean, the
community.
one I feel like sticks with me the most is the GNC. I want to go into the GNC for people because I love giving people just
Mhm.
language to go like, all right, you sit down, you got 20 minutes to push something out on social
Mhm.
media. This is a great framework to follow to really help you think through, okay, what's the type of content that's going to work?
Yeah, totally. So GNC, we're not talking about the vitamin supplement store, by the way, for all the listeners tuning in. This is actually an acronym that I created that I knew would catch attention. But this is something, guys, that I created that I honestly feel will stand the test of time. You can apply this to any social media platform. I know specifically we're going to talk about Instagram today, but I just want to kind of plant that flag for those listening in that you can apply GNC to any platform. So let's just, I'll give like the abbreviated version of it. We'll dig in. And then if you guys, I'm sure, maybe want to dig deeper, we can do that too. But GNC, for those taking notes, stands for growth, nurture, and conversion. No matter what the platform is, Instagram specifically today, I always ask myself the question, and everyone listening in should ask themselves the question: what is my intent?
Yeah.
Most people promoting a brand, service, product on something like Instagram, they don't have any intent. They're just kind of winging it. They're like, oh, I like Chelsea, you said, oh, I saw this gal posted something about create all this fancy stuff. And now you've got people out there just trying all these things versus having an actual concrete
Yeah.
system that's simplistic to follow. And so I think that no matter what type of product or service you're promoting, following the GNC format will serve you best. So let's break it down real quick. The G stands for growth. So if you're someone who wants to grow on Instagram, you have to ask yourself right now, what type of content do I want to create that's going to focus on intentional
Good.
growth? I can give you a couple of pointers real quick. Obviously, reels in short form video are, in my opinion, the number one way to reach new non-followers, cold market folks who have no idea who you are yet that might have an interest eventually in your product or service. So I think that's got to be essential. The second, best growth strategy on Instagram right now is either, carousels or just a single static image. For those that aren't familiar with carousels, those are like a series of anywhere from 3 to 10 pictures in one post that you can swipe right and get glimpses of or tips or value from someone. And the other parts of that is just a single image. Maybe you take all 5 of those tips, 6 or 7 or 10 of those tips or suggestions, and put them all in one single image. Write this down to your notes for those listening in. Is when it comes to growth, there are 3 metrics that matter most: watch time, saves, and shares. Those are the 3 most important critical components to allow your content to get some kind of traction, to be seen by folks that are not yet following you. So that's the G. You want to pass it back to you guys? You want me to finish the N and the C real quick?
So good. I mean, we're big believers in look at data, right? To see what's working and make it better. And I recently started doing this on my personal brand on Instagram, having just tracking some of those metrics. The first time I heard you say them, right? Saves, shares, view time, right? Watch time. And it was really interesting when I laid out all my posts from last month. There was one post. Like most posts had like 8 to 10 shares or 8 to 10 saves, but there was one post that had like 100 saves on it. And I was like, oh, there's something there, right? And it gives you a clue. Like at first you're just experimenting. You're just putting stuff out there in the niche. You're trying to attract that person. You're just putting stuff out. You're just taking swings. But every once in a while you see like one of these spikes and like, wow, that's the thing that people really want to hear about. And so guess what I did the next time I recorded content? I sat down, I did a bunch of stuff about that thing that people were saving, and we'll see how it does. So I'm very much in the experimentation mode, but I'd rather like put in educated effort than just random effort. You start random, but then you get really educated, and then you're able to figure out like what's working. And when you start leaning into what's working, that's when you start to see fast growth.
Yeah, you couldn't have summed it up better. I mean, I think that it's safe to say for those listening in, you guys might see Stephen and Chelsea or myself as like, big influencer type with lots of followers. But I think it's cool to hear from you guys and from myself as well for your listeners that we're all in experimentation mode all the time. Especially those who are maybe newer is, taking that time frame of, 4, 6, 8 weeks of experimenting all types of things. But Stephen, you just shared one of the biggest secrets there is the most important thing to understand when it comes to Instagram is data, is the insights. Most folks are not willing to put out a bunch of different types of content or pieces of content, different topics, subjects within their niche to be able to collect that data, right? They'll make 1 or 2 or 3 reels or one carousel or one static image and they don't get the traction. And they're like, oh, Instagram doesn't work. It's like, no. Give yourself some ample time, test a bunch of different things and see what works. And I love how you said, once you gathered that data, you're like, oh my gosh, this one had 100 saves. Like now I can double down and create more content within that topic, which I think is cool. So
you can see the data because that was an aha for me when someone taught me, oh, you just have to enable this thing on your profile. So talk us through that. If you're not seeing the data on Instagram, what type of profile do you need? What do you recommend for getting those insights?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people on Instagram that maybe are not having a business or maybe just started a business or just unaware, just have a personal Instagram account. I will throw one little asterisk out there. A lot of people in business, it's unfortunate. They come to me and they're like, let's try what's going on. Nobody's seeing my stuff. I look at their profile and it's private. I'm like, that's like having a brick and mortar store in the middle of your downtown where you live. And you have this huge launch and you've got this line of people outside and you keep the doors locked on launch day. It's like, it doesn't really make any sense, right? So make sure those profiles are public. But yes, I would highly encourage if you are serious about growing your name, your brand, your business, generating more traffic, for maybe your Amazon product or things outside of that, eventually switch over to a professional account. All you need to do is in your settings, go to the 3 little lines, little hamburger sign, change it to a professional. It's literally 2 clicks of a button and it happens almost instantly. And you unlock all this data and insights. And this is really cool because especially over the last 6 months on Instagram, they have added even more insights to some, things just like reels. So now, just like maybe 2 or 3 months ago, they added how many followers you're actually generating from a specific reel.
So cool.
That's huge content. So I just looked at content of mine. Most of my reels and stuff, they're not getting millions of views, but sure, we have a few that pop off. My average for reels is anywhere from like 3, 6, maybe 8,000. I mean, that's just kind of the range that I stay in. But sure, I've had a few in the millions that are attracting ideal followers. And I mean, it's cool to open up that one specific reel and see, hey, this reel attracted 20 new followers. This reel brought in 5 followers. This reel brought in 100 followers. and then be able to create more content just like that.
Powerful.
So powerful.
Yeah, going off the data. I would love to know, Brian, you talked a little bit about, you know, carousel, like posts versus reels versus static photos. I would love to know, like, what have you found to be a good cadence, or maybe you've seen collectively with your clients? That's kind of one question. Switching back and forth, like how many reels versus how do you kind of figure that out? And then number two, when you are in that experimental phase of putting a lot of content out there, what do you feel like is the amount of time that you need to kind of hone in on that data? You know, is it a week? Is it 2 weeks? Do you want to give a solid month? Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, such great questions. I want to address the posting quantity, I guess, first. For me, everybody's different. So if you're listening into this and you're like, you know, hey, I just kind of want to get my feet wet, kind of figure things out, that's totally cool. I get it. But I always ask the question, how fast do you want to go? And more times than not, the person on the other end who asked that question will be like, well, Coach Fryer, I want to, you know, get my Amazon product in front of as many people as I can, or I want to generate as much traffic and visibility as I can. And in that regards, I would suggest somewhere along the lines of, you know, a couple of reels per day. And, you know, for me currently, I'm doing a couple of reels per day, and then anywhere from 2 to 3, either, you know, static posts or carousels in total per week. So, you know, you think about it, that's anywhere from, you know, 10 to 15, 16, 18 pieces of content per week is what we're putting out. A couple of reels a day, and then maybe 3 static images a week, or 3 carousels a week, or a combination of the two, I think is simplest. Then, Chels, remind me of the second question.
Yeah. What is the span that you would say to collect that data? Like, what do you find is a good time frame for students to be like, okay, now this data is making sense?
Yeah, my apologies.
No,
Such a
it's
great
all good.
question too, by the way. And I'm glad I'm glad you asked it, because this is something that, you know, in any type of business, I feel that most kind of give up before, you know, it reminds me of that picture where the guy's like digging for gold with an axe, and he's like so close to this big pile of gold, and then he gives up, turns around, and walks the other way. You know, I would strongly recommend, you know, 30 days, I think, is a sweet spot, right? Someone who just either starts their Instagram account or is relaunching their Instagram account, going to pump out a ton of content. Give yourself 30 days of pumping out a lot of content, right? The last thing I would mention on that is this doesn't have to take 6 months to a year to figure out. And I think that that's refreshing, especially for a lot of your audience here. It doesn't need to take 6 to 12 months to figure this out. If you are open and willing to put in a little bit more time, you know, 14, 15, 30 days, somewhere in that range, compress time, pump out a higher amount of content. Like I said, a couple of reels a day, you know, 2, 3, 4 carousel static images a week, and just start putting out as much as you can, collect the data. You're going to compress time. And so literally at the end of the 30 days, you're going to have a really clear picture on the exact type of content that's performing best, and then can just double down and then maybe scale back. Maybe it's 1 reel per day. After that, now you know exactly what to create.
That's awesome. Let's shift to, okay, we talked growth. You're growing on Instagram. Now you're starting to see some people coming in. Now, how do we nurture them? How do we move into that end phase? What's up, Rainmaker? If you're like me, having a good night's sleep is an absolute must, especially as a parent and an entrepreneur. And I feel like I found the secret weapon. It's called 8 Sleep. This brand is a way to add heating and cooling to any bed. And I'm telling you, this cooling feature is an absolute life changer for me, especially during those warm summer months. This might be TMI, but I sweat very easily. And I didn't really realize how much this was affecting my quality of sleep. Once I slept on this bed that has a cooling feature, imagine like the cool side of the pillow, but like all over your body all the time. I do not know how I lived without this. So if you're ready to revolutionize your sleep, head over to rainmakerfamily.com/deals. We got a hookup for Rainmaker Family Show listeners. Again, that's rainmakerfamily.com/deals, and check out 8 Sleep. All right, back to the show.
Yeah, nurturing is the fun part. Now, I think for each business, depending upon the product, right, that maybe they're launching, maybe they want to have their face be a part of what they're doing, and they are actually a part of their brand. And I'm sure you guys are going to have folks within the Rainmaker community who are like, you know what, I actually don't want to show my face. And I want to just reiterate to, no matter what side of the fence you're on, you can be successful either way. So don't say, you know, if I do it this way, I can't be successful, or this way I can't be successful. So I think that each and every one of you listening in needs to decide first and foremost, which angle am I going to take? Am I going to be forward facing, or am I going to be kind of more behind the scenes and have something that's kind of faceless? So I think that that's important. But when it comes to the end of the GNC format, The N stands for nurturing. I'm a big believer that, okay, you've created some growth content, reels or carousels or static image. You've got a lot of new eyeballs, a lot of new followers on your content. And quite frankly, when someone decides to follow you on Instagram, it's just my, rationalization, how I break this down. When someone decides to follow you on Instagram, for example, on a scale of 1 to 10, their level of trust is maybe a 2 or 3, right? They stumbled across a piece of your content. It intrigued them. It helped them. It was value driven, whatever that might be. And they're like, you know what the heck? I'll follow this person, right? They decide to follow. So now their level of trust is 2 or 3. They still don't really know you, the rest of your content. And so the N, nurturing type of content, I think can be really powerful. So 3 different types of nurturing content that I want to share. For those of you who are going to be forward facing and your face is going to be a part of the brand, your voice, your face, all that stuff, I feel mixing in, 1 reel a week, maybe 1 reel every 2 weeks that is forward facing in your face, providing some value that's maybe 30 to 60 seconds long, giving your audience an opportunity to get to know you a little bit more, hear your voice, see your face, see your energy. I think that's critical and could be very helpful. The 2 other nurturing components that I feel every Instagram user should be using are live video. So Instagram Live. And you don't need to be doing like a live every day or anything like that. But hey, maybe 2 or 3 a month. I think it's fantastic. An opportunity for you to go live. And it doesn't need to be 3 hours long either. Maybe it's 18, 20 minutes at most, a couple times a month, 3 times a month. Again, it gives you an opportunity to interact with your followers. And then the third is your stories, right? Stories are a great way for your audience to kind of see behind the scenes. And what is the whole intent and goal of nurturing content? It's to take that person on a scale of 1 to 10 trust factor from a 2 or 3 to a 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9. Because one thing you and I, what we all know is what? People do business with those they know, like, and trust. So the question is, how can we build more trust with our folks? That's nurturing in a nutshell.
Awesome. So good. Now, the part that I feel like everyone wants to skip to is the conversion, right? And I feel like I used to be this. I'd be like, grow, convert, right? Like just skip the nurture, right? And that's like asking someone to marry you on the first date. Really good to warm people up, especially with brands. I think like the big mistake I see sometimes e-commerce sellers make is making their whole Instagram account about the product, right? It's like buy the product. Here's another angle of the product. And no one wants to follow that. So we recommend, creating an Instagram around your person, the person who might buy that product, the person who's really into that thing. Like what's content that's going to add value to their life, that is going to engage with them, is going to, hit other things that they're interested in. And then they build that rapport with you, you're nurturing them. And then you're like, hey, by the way, we have a product, right? And people are, I feel like in 2024, they're pretty with it. Like you don't need to always be doing a call to action, say, here's exactly how to go buy this thing. People will find it. They will find your stuff and they'll buy it. But it is good to do these intentional conversion strategies as well. Like bake these into your content strategy. So let's talk about that. We got G and C. The last one's conversion. What have you seen working right now for bringing a follower to a potential customer?
Yeah, such a great question. And everyone maybe even at the beginning of this episode, they're like, all right, how do I ultimately get more people to buy my product on Amazon, right? That's the desired result from most. And I really hope that what we've shared so far is kind of helping you create some of the building blocks of how you're going to actually create and generate more sales of your products on Amazon. So for those listening in, don't bypass the first 2 steps. Those are critical to bringing folks along that customer journey, I guess, if you will. The conversion part is not only the funnest, but typically the simplest. A lot of the work being done here is for the growth and nurture. When it comes to conversion, if someone was just starting an Instagram account, I always say point people to your strength. So in the beginning, and you're just getting started with your business, maybe I would suggest, hey, if you're someone who, wants to have actual one-on-one conversations with folks, let's see how we can direct this Instagram traffic and these followers to maybe the DMs. And you create maybe a series of 2 or 3 or 4 questions. You can simply ask them really, really quick. We're not talking about 3-hour-long conversations here. We know that you guys are all busy. No one has time to spend, 3 hours a day in the DMs, but, create just a little 3 questions around your product or service and learn more about the customer, what they're looking for, what they're currently using, what challenges they're facing with the product they're using, and how your product might be a good fit or replacement. I mean, it really can be that simple. But for those just starting out, I highly, highly suggest it may or may not be something you want to do, but get into the DMs with these folks, have conversations with these potential ideal new customers. You're going to learn so much and also generate some sales, but you're going to, not only generate sales, but learn so much more to create more content around once you actually get into some conversations with these folks. Now, there are some intermediate to advanced conversion strategies, but I'm going to pause, pass it back to you guys. But for those just starting out, I think it's really important to engage with your customers in the DMs one-on-one. But as your volume and followers and all that stuff start to increase, there are some intermediate to advanced ways to simplify that.
Yeah, I think asking your customers what they want, what do they need, like creating that relationship, because then that creates, especially when you're starting out and growing, then you can get those loyal customers that were like, I remember when you first launched, I remember when you were on product number 1 and now you're on product number 2, and they feel like just as much a part of the journey. So I think building that relationship, people really want that. And I've even experienced that on like in social media as well. I remember, I think it was like a podcast. There was somebody who there's a little bit of mutual connection, and I was just like, this is like this is a long shot. I highly doubt she's gonna see this message because she had a significantly more number of followers than myself. And I think we ended up getting her on the podcast, and it was a great episode. But she responded personally to me with a voice message, and she again has a lot of followers, so there's probably some at times automation, maybe I just happened to get lucky. I don't know. But regardless, it was so cool that she is spending time in her DMs responding like that. And it was so personal. And it's left a mark on me that I'm like, how can I do that even as our following continues to grow? Having that personal element, I think is really beautiful.
It's such a great point that you mentioned, Chelsea. I've experienced similar things, but when you have customers or clients literally say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you actually messaged me back. I'm sitting here imagining, Chelsea, you thinking that when she sent you a voice clip and how special it made you feel. And in just to simply put it, I mean, how much, I don't know how long you had followed that individual, but how much, of an increase did the level of trust you have with her go up in that one single moment? Probably by like 10 levels, right? I mean, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we should get a tiny bit into the advanced stuff. I would love to talk about ManyChat. Are you using ManyChat? We've been using it a lot in our business. And I think sometimes like you can get in there and it feels very complicated. But even just last week, we were setting up something that was very simple. We might even do a whole episode on ManyChat because I feel like it's one of those things that just, we're big believers in like, work smarter, not harder, right? And it's good to be in your DMs doing the personal stuff. But sometimes you just want to give someone that free PDF or you want to direct them to your Amazon store. And we're seeing, at least on our end, just saying, hey, go click the link in bio. It's not working as well as it used to. So using something like ManyChat is helping a lot. I don't know, Brian, are you using ManyChat? Do you see a lot of people using stuff like that? And let's explain it for people who have never heard of ManyChat before. We can explain kind of what it is.
Yeah, 100%. We are using it and recommending to, I would say, certain clients, just because I think that it is, let's just call it intermediate. It's not necessarily advanced, but it is intermediate. I think it's important, no matter what product or service someone is selling, that they truly understand the sales process. So let's go back to, my original suggestion for most that maybe are tuning in is get the first, dozen or 2 dozen, a few dozen in the DMs, have the conversations, learn more about your customer, because now you have a much clearer idea and can insert some of the automation stuff. What questions are these customers asking me? How am I facilitating and navigating? What are they needing most? What are they currently using? What are some of the things that are lacking with what they're using and why maybe they want to buy my product or service now? So this is all great data and insight that every single marketer should be, gathering this information and then inserting and leveraging something like ManyChat once volume starts to increase. I think is 100%. I 100% recommend it. We are obviously leveraging it, recommending to clients once they start generating at least 10 leads a week is kind of just the bar. Like if you're not even generating conversations and leads yet and no sales, I would probably hold off on the ManyChat automation. Let's get you in the process of generating sales, fielding conversations. And once that starts happening, then you start getting become better with your marketing skills. Your reels are getting more traction. Your content's getting more traction. You're generating, not just 1 or 2 leads for every reel, but now you're generating 5, 10, 15, 20 leads for every reel you create, then the conversation comes up. Absolutely, Stephen. Like, yo, let's talk ManyChat, how that can simplify. I can share maybe one other quick example, just how we're leveraging. Would that be
Yeah, that'd
helpful?
be awesome.
For it.
Cool. I mean, most of us are doing a lot of the same things. It's quite simple, but let's go back to the conversion of the GNC formula, and think about creating reels, specific types of reels, with the intent to generate comments that are ultimately going to be set up with ManyChat. And someone comments a word, for example, Amazon, let's say, and they're immediately going to get sent a DM from you guys. Maybe it's a free PDF resource on how you guys have built an incredible business through Amazon. I think is amazing for lead gen. I think it's amazing for opportunities to share product service. Could be free, could be low ticket. I think there are lots of options there, but it's definitely going to help get more of your content, information, valuable resources into the hands of those seeking it. And I think it's just going to go all the way back to that level of trust, right? Maybe someone sees a conversion reel of yours, they comment Amazon, you send them a free PDF. They may not buy right this moment, but now they're maybe in your free Facebook group, getting to know you guys a little bit more, and ultimately going to become, maybe a part of the inner circle, something like that. I think it's a great way to do so.
Fantastic. So good. Ryan, I just have a curious question for you. I've heard some stirring around algorithm changes on Instagram. I feel like it's always like one thing after another. Oh, changing this, changing that. But I have heard a shift from Instagram, and I don't know if this is like a rumor or if this came from something Instagram put out, but from what it sounded like, how Instagram would previously kind of put your content out was like you put a post up, they show it to like some of your followers. If people are engaging with it, saving it, liking it, like some of those metrics you talked about, they're going to send it to more followers, right? Kind of like if it's like same thing on Facebook. You post a photo of your coffee at the coffee shop, 0 likes. If you post a photo of your brand new newborn baby, right? It shows it to your mom and your friends, they freak out. It shows it to more friends, right? So I think that's kind of like how it used to work. But what I've heard, this is just a stirring and a rumor, is that, TikTok has really figured out something with algorithm. Like they figured out where they can like really get stuff kind of blowing up. And I feel like, honestly, I think it's a strategy to hit the dopamine of the user and go, wow, this post got, 10,000 views, 1 million views. Let me post more. And then they lean in more. And I feel like I heard something about Instagram shifting that, where even brand new users with low follower counts, they're going to really push the posts out to more people outside of your followers to see how it performs. And if it's performing with those non-followers, then they'll expand it. I don't know. Have you heard anything about that shift in content strategy, or in the algorithm when it comes to Instagram?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's always going to be truth. I used to think of it in terms of like rings, or, a circle of rings, like your first 100, most engaged followers are going to show your content to them. And if a certain percentage of them engage or whatever, it's going to show it to the next ring, maybe 500 or 1,000. I think there's some validity there. I think it's the cross-pollination. It could be a rumor, could partly be true. Here's how I've always phrased this: algorithm or not, good content is good content. I think a lot of times marketers out there can get so caught up in the algorithm and trying to beat the algorithm or hack the algorithm, or, all of these things. And we all see this nowadays out there, with folks promoting their stuff, steal this, hack this, algorithm that. And those are good buzzwords. But I think at the end of the day, like, you could hack the algorithm, and if your content still sucks, like, ain't nobody going to see it. So, I'm just transparent in a kind, loving, genuine fashion. And I think that too much energy gets put on the algorithm talk. And so I would challenge everybody to focus more on doing a lot of things, Stephen, you and I even talked about earlier in this episode, is focusing more on going on a blitz, creating a lot of content in a short amount of time, figuring out what's working. Chelsea, you talked a little bit about, gathering the data, the insights, and then being able to double down on some of those things. I think that that's ultimately what's going to help most people grow the fastest. But I'll finish with this. It's not necessarily about who grows the fastest. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about my own personal Instagram account, just to be transparent on this episode. I've had reels go nuts. You guys have had reels go nuts. But over the last, 30 to 40 days, I mean, I've only had one reel pop off, and I think it's got like 120, 130,000, which is cool. But the majority of my reels are anywhere from 3 to 6, maybe 7,000. But the consistent growth in my account every single day I wake up, it's another 50, another 75, another 100 followers, and it's targeted ideal folks. And I think that that's what's resonating true is I'm focused more on the content, the person I'm serving. And that's
Yeah.
truly, I mean, hacking the algorithm at its
Mhm.
best.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I feel like we forget how many people, 8,000 people. It's like, I've been at a conference with 5,000 people, and to be on a stage in front of those people,
Mhm.
that'd be intense, you know? And like, you're getting that every
Yeah.
day. It's like, we kind of like get these huge inflated numbers. You kind of forget
Mhm.
the power
Yeah.
of like, even just 100 people. Like, it's a big room, you know?
Mhm.
And so, that's encouraging to see. Like, that will like, that'll really, I feel like Instagram is like, when we built our first business, we built it a lot off blogging, you know, and it was like being really consistent with blogging. It was one of those things that just, it was kind of that slow growth. But then once we stopped blogging, it was like you couldn't turn it off, you know? And I think the same thing with what you're building. It's kind of like the slow, consistent growth that'll pay back for years to come.
Mhm. Yeah. Consistency really, I love that you're hitting on that. It's just consistency. It's like, try it for 30 days. Here's this framework that Brian just gave you. And then, yeah, consistency. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, you can hack this and try this new trend. And of course, there are, things like I remember when stories first came out and that changed the game of things. But more than that, it's consistency. It's who you are, it's showing up, loving your customers. That happened with us at, every business that we've run, that we've had a chance to be on social media and share. And back then it was mostly blogging. And again, you can't turn it off, and people will always remember and come back to you. So I love that. Like, no matter what happens, like, just stay consistent and keep putting content out there that serves your people. So thank you so much, Brian, for being on the show today. I know our listeners are going to want to learn more. I know this is going to leave them inspired. I love that you talked about those moms who want to create a brand but don't want to be the face of it too. And you can do that with social media as well. I think that's setting some people free right now. So if our listeners want to hear more from you, maybe see some of your amazing content, where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, since the topic of today was Instagram, I would say just give me a follow over there. I think, Coach_Fryer is the Instagram handle. Yeah, I pump out an enormous amount of content over there, obviously free there, and I think would be of incredible value for the audience. And I just want to give you guys a shout out for all that you're doing in the Amazon space, and now venturing out and seeing how the addition of social media guidance can help your community as well. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to continue to collab and share ideas and be a part of the Rainmaker family.
Awesome. Love it, Brian. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. If you're not a part of our mastermind yet, I want to say I think you're missing out. Our heart here at Rainmaker is to create total abundance for you. That's why we're offering a free one-on-one family freedom design session for you, our faithful listener.
Yeah, if you want to hop on a call with our team, see if it's a good fit to build a business that creates time freedom for you, financial abundance, and helps you leave that thriving family legacy. That's what we're all about in our mastermind. You can grab a time on our team's calendar at rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind. Again, that's rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind.